Blue Revolution. Great to see you guys. I'm here with Michele Hornish today, who is the executive director of It Starts Today, which is the organization that we are working with to raise as much money as humanly possible for the 2020 Democratic nominee, who will be named probably sometime in the spring, so that we can avoid another dumpster fire like we had in 2016. We got to make sure that we win this year, or next year, I guess, in 2020. Brought Michele on here just to explain a few things about the fund because we're asking everyone in Blue Rev to chip in something. So thanks so much, Michele, for coming on and talking to Blue Revolution today.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here. So thank you for asking me. We're really excited about everything that you all are doing.
Very great. So Michele, if you want to just give a quick overview of It Starts Today, and then the particular funds that we are running here, or that we're helping to run here in Blue Revolution to give to the 2020 Democratic nominee.
Absolutely, I'm happy to. So It Starts Today was actually founded by Jonathan Zucker, who was the first COO and the second CEO of Act Blue. So I like to say that he dreams in campaign finance, which is basically true. And I'm sure that you remember those terrible hours in late November 8th, 2016, early November 9th, 2016, when everyone was fighting against one another. Bernie people fighting Hillary people fighting Bernie people, and everyone blaming one another. That was when Jonathan sort of sat up and said, you know what, we need to start working together right now to make sure that this sort of thing doesn't happen in 2018 and doesn't happen in 2020. Excuse me. And so he started It Starts Today, right? So our cooperation, our collaboration starts today. And It Starts Today began as just a congressional project, which we still have, but a congressional project that helps fund every single Democratic nominee who's running for House or Senate. And that project started in early 2017, and we raised almost $500,000 for that was split between all of the Democratic House and Senate nominees in 2018. And Donald Trump, obviously being the dumpster fire that he is, was also a focus of our attention, obviously. And so we started the Dump Trump Project specifically to address the need for funds, for support for the Democratic nominee in 2020. And that's obviously where you all come in.
That's the fund that we're working on right now. And we've raised about $175,000 so far when you add up all the monthly pledges. And that is 810, I think it's 808 people so far in Blue Revolution who've chipped in so far. So going very well. We are sort of just, again, this video is just for folks to get a good idea of why they should be giving to this thing. One of the things that we run into a lot in Blue Revolution is folks who are giving to primary candidates, whether it's Warren or Bernie or Biden or Buttigieg or Harris or whoever it is. And, we never discourage people from giving to their preferred candidates. We've got a primary for a reason. Like these people do need to duke it out. We need to give our money to who we believe in. I gave $50 to one of my top candidates on the day that they announced a few months ago. But I think the thing about that money that sort of we talk about is that, technically you're giving your money to someone who's going to use it to defeat other Democrats. It's a necessary thing, but that is technically what the money's going for. Whereas the money to the Dump Trump Fund is money that's going directly to defeat Donald Trump at the end of the primary. So where this money, when do we actually give this big fat pot of money over to the Democratic nominee?
Sure. And that's, I think, where the Dump Trump Project is unique. Well, I don't think it is, right? The Dump Trump Project is unique in the timing of the support that is sent to the nominee. I actually like to think of it as sort of a human shield, because at the end of this really expensive, difficult, exhausting primary, there will be someone, we obviously don't know who it is yet, but there will be someone who gets a majority of delegates that they need to win on the first ballot in the Democratic convention. The time that at the moment that someone gets enough delegates to win the nomination, we send your support. So we send it, we're going to be watching like hawks, and we send that support immediately. We just wire it to them so that they're able to use that money right away. All of the other Democratic 2020 nominee funds that you see out there are sending their funds at the convention.
At the convention, right? Yep.
Now, traditionally, typically, historically, there have been days, weeks, a long time between the moment that someone gets enough delegates to win the nomination and the actual convention. So that means that we have someone who has duked it out, right? All the way through. They have fought tooth and nail through this primary, and they're exhausted and their resources are depleted. And at that moment, Trump and his band of merry millionaires and billionaires, they're going to know who our nominee is, and they're going to have nothing to fight back with.
Sure.
So I like to think of us in this fund as being the people who are giving them a shield, right? We're not letting Donald Trump and those people have that many shots on goal. Right. We're not going to leave our nominee as a sitting duck. Right. And so I think that it's going to be amazing that night, whenever it is, for all of the people that are part of Blue Revolution to recognize that at the very second that the nominee needs that support, that you're providing it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a great point, and I think like that's going to be a really happy night when we can sort of take
Absolutely.
like $500,000 or $1 million or whatever we're giving just from small donations, right? I think the average donation so far in here has been like $12 or $13. And there's tons and tons and tons of people giving like $1. There's tons of people giving $5. There's some people giving the maximum, which right now is $233 a month, which is $2,700 overall. And I like to break it down to coffees. I'm a big coffee guy. I'm always just constantly sucking these down as I'm blue revving. And but I think like $25 a month is 2 coffees a week. I've done the other math in my head, but just, if you can give up coffees to beat Trump, I don't think that there's anyone watching this right now who wouldn't do that. So I think the thing that we try to emphasize is like, even if you're giving to one of the primary candidates, like which you should continue to do, like as a side note, give a few bucks to the eventual nominee, whoever that ends up being. We've got a lot on the line. It's not just about Trump too. Like we're going to have a 6-3 or 7-2 right-wing Supreme Court. If a Democrat doesn't win the White House next year, which will wipe away all of the things that we want for the next several decades. But I guess that sort of brings me to this point of just, one of the things that I think Blue Rev has meant to a lot of people over the last couple of years in this kind of like daily maelstrom of darkness in the Trump era is just the psychological abuse that people are taking from Trump at this point. And I think that leads to a lot of feelings of a lack of agency, a lack of empowerment. And, for what we do in Blue Rev, I think it's important for people to see that others are chipping in 5, 10, 15, $50 here and there. And then that adds up to like 6 figures, maybe even 7 figures in the end. And that's money that can be used for, a major ad campaign in a swing state, 2 weeks before Election Day in 2020. So that just, I think we're trying to, I guess my point is like, you will feel better if you chip in a few bucks to this thing and you see other people like you doing the same thing. You won't feel as powerless anymore, right? I mean, that's kind of what small dollar donations are really all about.
Well, I like to think of it as action therapy. If you're starting to feel like there's nothing that you can do, the best thing that you can do is to find one small thing, right? And being able to give up, a cup of coffee or even just plugging in $1 a month, that actually makes a huge difference.
Yep.
So, and the message that you're sending is phenomenal. This is the way that campaign finance should be done. This is the way that we should be doing things. So sometimes it's good to lead by example.
Sure.
And even if it's just with $1 a month, hey, that's $1 a month. That's more than the campaign had before.
Exactly. And Jonathan has spoken to this before, the founder of It Starts Today, basically saying that, if this model sort of goes well, you could change the way that Democratic campaigns are funded.
Absolutely.
If you had like a few million Democrats just giving like $10 a month for the next Democratic presidential nominee, like all the time, they would be a lot less likely to be taking all those corporate dollars and answering to those folks instead of answering to us. So I think that, this is not, I mean, of course, the number one thing on the agenda is to beat Trump, and that's a national emergency. But I think long term, this can start to solve some of those campaign finance issues too. And then maybe eventually we get some Democrats into office that will change the laws, and like we don't need to privately fund them anymore, right? We can actually publicly fund campaigns. So.
But in the meantime, if they're not going to do that, then we can do it ourselves,
yeah.
right? And this is the way that we do that.
For sure. Michelle, the just to sort of be sort of transparent here with the folks that are watching, we do have some fees that go into this fund. So Blue Revolution is taking 5% of these pledges because we do a lot of events where we do sort of comedy, music shows, and things of that nature around the Boston and New York areas where we raise more money for this fund and therefore more money for the Democratic nominee. So that 5% sort of allows us to do sort of some of those production costs and to run Blue Revolution full time. There's some small fees associated with It Starts Today. If you could sort of speak to just the operating costs and what that is for.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So, I mean, just like you, we have the regular costs that go along with trying to save the world, right? And so we have that same 5% fee that you have. And it is to do the day to day work, trying to encourage people to sign up, trying to get people on board and doing all the marketing and all of that sort of management. It really does take a lot of time. But I'm really excited to be part of the team that is doing that sort of work.
So
So
it's
I'm
so it's
happy working with all of you. I mean, it's really inspiring to see 808 people. I mean, just think about that, 808 people that are able to contribute $175,000.
yeah.
I mean, imagine what happens if you have, 8,000 people, the amount of power that you would have. It's really fantastic. And I think that when people start to dream of the possibilities, it gets just really, really exciting. So I'm very
Yeah.
happy to partner with you all on
Well,
that.
as you can see, we're a pretty bare bones organization here. So I just did some back of the envelope math here, but this is how much we would raise if everyone in the group gave this amount of money. So if everyone gave $1, about $500,000. If everyone gave $5, we'd raise $2.2 million. If everyone gave 25, over $11 million, so on and so forth. If everyone gave the max, we'd raise $105 million. That's probably not going to happen, but like, let's shoot for it anyway, but
I mean, that's amazing. So
pretty
$5
good.
a
Yeah.
month, right? That's like a coffee a month.
Yeah.
That's a
Yep.
coffee a month
Yep.
or a beer a month or whatever, whatever someone likes to drink. That's really, and I like to bring people back, not because it's a fun thing to do, but because I think that having some perspective is helpful. If you can remember what it felt like in the early morning hours of November 9th, 2016, and what your stomach felt like and what you would have done at that moment for him not to be president,
Right.
I'm pretty sure that if you asked yourself on November 9th, 2016, if you could not have Donald Trump as president, if you would have given up a cup of coffee a month, I'm pretty sure that your 2016 person, self would have said yes.
Yeah.
So it's reminding ourselves of what's at stake and that we all have the ability to make a huge difference right now.
Right.
So.
And we have to start early because just those dollars just add up over the next several months. And again, it's just, find whatever's comfortable for you, find out how much you want Trump to lose in 13 months from now, and like donate that much, whatever is in your capacity, pledge that much. Well, this has been great, Michelle. I think, what we're going to do with this video is we're going to post it and we're going to ask every single member of Blue Revolution to pledge something, whether it's $1, $5. If you can give the maximum, that's great. If you can $50, that's great. But even $1 is just like, the night that you're watching the returns coming in on November 3rd, 2020, you can say like, hey, I helped get some of those voters out in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Florida, whatever state it's going to come down to. And it could come down to like 500 votes somewhere, and like us, giving a few $1,000,000 over to the nominee will, that could be an ad campaign, like I said, in a critical swing state in the last week. And we really can make a difference. But we're going to be asking everyone in the thread, in the comments section to be saying like, I just gave, I gave $1, I gave $5, I gave $25. You don't have to say how much you gave, but other people will see that. And I think it just starts to roll and people just feed on each other's energy. And we're a little bit more than a year out here. And this is the time to get started, right? Like not a month before, not a week before, not the night before the election, like right now, the calm before the storm is the time to get started. So that's what we're trying to accomplish here.
Thank you so much for all the work that you're doing and for having me. I really appreciate it.
Great. Thanks, Michelle. And hopefully this goes well.
Okay.
Okay.
Take care.